Chag Sameach to my friend Nissim, down in one corner from Mumbai, India. Thank you, Nissim. To Monica from Mexico City, and to Jonathan Ornstein from Krakow. I feel as though many of you who are logging in right now know them from various corners of the world, or for many of us who are missing the chance to hop on a plane and travel this summer. I feel like this will be a little bit of an experience of a flight without the passport required. So thank you for spending a bit of Shavuot with us. We have 289 participants in the room right now. And as I keep on saying, with each huge crowd in each of our sessions, there is no one room at the JCC that would accommodate all of you. And if you've tried to get in our elevators on a busy day, you would know that this would be really a nightmare. So although I see no silver linings with a pandemic that has lost so many lives, I keep trying to see spots where the cracks where the lights get through. And being with all of you tonight is one of those very many cracks, and having almost 300 folks to join us for a conversation on Kol Yisrael, Arevim Zeh BaZeh, the Jewish community around the world, will really be a shining spot in my light, in my night. And I will pull up some of the questions that Smadar had been hoping to ask you herself, and then may invite the three of you to be a bit more spontaneous without her here to facilitate as beautifully as she would, to chat amongst yourselves. But I would love each of you to share with me your names, your titles, where you are from, and what time it is right now in your country. Let's start with the softballs, the easy ones for now. Nissim, let me turn it to you.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. My name is Nissim Joshua Pingle. I'm the director of the Evelyn Peters Jewish Community Center in Mumbai. It happens to be the only community center not only in Mumbai, but the whole of India. And it's 9:35 a.m. in India right now.
Boker Tov.
Boker Tov, Tada.
And Monica.
Hi, Dava. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Monica from the CDI in Mexico. And right now it's 11 o'clock in the night in Mexico City.
Thank you for staying up late and being with us.
Okay.
It's later here, but still.
It's a pleasure, Dava.
Thank you. Jonathan.
Good morning or good evening, depending on where we all are. My name is Jonathan Ornstein. I'm the executive director of the JCC in Krakow, Poland. It is 6:06 a.m. And let me just say what an honor it is to be able to participate in the historically world famous JCC Manhattan, Marlene Mayerson, JCC Manhattan, Tikkun Leil Shavuot, a dream of mine since childhood.
You're too kind. And if you're trying to figure out just the specific genre of Jonathan's Polish accent, it's because he is a Jewish boy from Forest Hills, Queens, who has found his way via Israel to Krakow and has changed the face of the Jewish community there. And we'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. Oh, here's some questions Smadar was going to throw at you. I'll put them both at the same time. Take them as you please. What is your favorite traditional food in your home country, and a special Jewish tradition in your community? Let's switch orders. John, start with you. Favorite food and a Jewish tradition.
Favorite food, and here I think Poland, you have to go with pierogies. Although what's interesting in Poland is that a lot of things that we traditionally think of as Jews, as Jewish food, are also Polish food. So in Poland, you can get latkes year round. And if you go into any bakery in the country, they have chałka, which is really challah, just a bit of a sweeter version. And they might not always know that it's actually Jewish, but it of course comes from the Jews. The Jews have been in Poland for 1,000 years, and there's so much that have from the Polish culture, especially food, that is rubbed off on Jewish culture and vice versa. In terms of Jewish tradition or something, I think Poland's interesting because there's a 15th century rabbi, the Ramah, Moses Isserles, who wrote really the sort of the Ashkenazic interpretation of the Shulchan Aruch. So you could really say that if you're an Ashkenazi Jew anywhere in the world, then the way that you do most things really comes from Poland. So I think Poland's tradition really became the Ashkenazic tradition around the world.
A favorite tradition of mine from afar, and I've only had the chance to see it on Facebook, but I know the JCC in Krakow does a huge Passover Seder gathering. Maybe share that, and while we have you, since you are also from New York, if there is a favorite spot for the best Polish food in New York that folks that are local in the 5 boroughs should know about, you can tell us that too.
Well, I would say that, first of all, Polish food in New York, you know, as a New Yorker coming home to New York, and I do very often, or pre-corona did very often, I would say that I wasn't really going very often for Polish food leaving Poland, but I would say that either you go down to Greenpoint, and I'm not sure what the place, what the best place would be these days in Greenpoint, but in the city, in Manhattan, I would say Veselka is where you want to go really for Polish food.
Awesome. Well, maybe I'll get back to you on your on the Seder happening in Krakow, but I'd love to hear from Monica and Nissim. We'll go Monica next in terms of a favorite traditional food in your home country, and a special Jewish tradition in your community. I have longed to spend some time with the Mexico Jewish community, and on my mind is the dance festival. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if that's not already on your list, I would love to hear about that at some point also. Unmute. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. For us in Mexico, obviously the traditional food is everything with tortillas. We eat tortillas in every kind of way that you can imagine. We even try to make tortillas for Passover because it goes with everything, and also, of course, with some spicy salsas all the time. And you took the words out of my mind, because for us, at least in the CDI, our Jewish tradition is our annually Festival Aviv, that we have many dancers, and you know that you're more than welcome to be our guest of honor.
This year it couldn't happen, as you know, but it will happen.
Exactly, I know. And because we have more than 1,500 children participating in a whole event week, with children from kindergarten till senior citizens dancing all the year. And for the community is actually a big Jewish tradition event that we host every year.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Nissim, give us your favorite food in your home country and a wonderful Jewish tradition from Mumbai. I imagine we'll all be fascinated to learn from you about that.
Well, too many favorite foods, but I have a special Shavuot favorite food, which is the basundi. And a basundi is a traditional Indian dessert, very delicious, made by reducing milk and sugar to a thick consistency. And it's flavored with cardamom, garnished with finely chopped nuts like pistachios and almonds and cashews. And it's served chilled, and it can be eaten on its own, or with a roti, which is a flat Indian bread, or even with a challah. So that's my favorite, the basundi. You should Google it for its recipe. And traditions, like many other countries or communities, it's to stay up until dawn studying the Torah on the first night. But the Indians have lots of masala chai when they are awake. And I remember as a teenager, I used to play cricket in the synagogue compound, and the Gabai used to sort of call us back for the Kaddish or things like that. So that is what I remember.
Amazing. Well, I would ask you either in the chat or into my personal email, send me the recipe for that favorite dish of yours, and I will post it on the JCC Manhattan's Facebook page so everyone can have that Shavuot recipe and enjoy it. I'm skipping to a further question on our list to get into some conversation, and also I'd welcome you to keep adding your questions to the Q&A because we'll also open this in a little bit just for time for our, how many do we have here now? Almost 300 friends to ask questions and be in conversation with Jonathan, Monica, and Nissim. So to Jonathan, I'd invite you to say a few words about the Krakow JCC, about what is happening now, and give some examples in ways in which you show responsibility to Holocaust survivers and to the rejuvenation of Jewish life in Poland. I know so much of what you've built there is really a way of bringing life in contrast to death that so many of us associate with Poland and Jewish history. And if you can spend a little bit of time bringing that to light for us, it would really be an honor.
Sure. So the JCC is 12 years old. We're the first JCC in Poland. We were founded by Prince Charles, which is sort of, it's interesting, its own story. And yeah, people essentially, Poland through the Jewish world's eyes is seen as a place of tragedy. We understand that there was Jewish life in Poland. There was 1,000 years of Jewish life in Poland. And for most of us, Jewish life ended with the Holocaust. We know there were survivors. We know they left and rebuilt their lives all over the world, in the US, in Mexico, and Israel, wherever they could. But we don't really think about Holocaust survivors having stayed in Poland. But not all the survivors left. Jews did stay in Poland and were really forced underground during communism. And now in the last 30 years, as Poland, after the Cold War, as Poland is now a free country, something very interesting is happening, which is Jewish life is emerging. So young people who are the children and grandchildren of the Holocaust survivors who went underground during communism are now re-emerging, and our main job, or one of our main focuses, is to bring them back into the Jewish world. So we have people every day who are just finding out they're Jewish and walking into our building, and we are taking really the lead role in bringing them back into the Jewish world. At the same time, we're taking care of Holocaust survivors. We have 50 Holocaust survivors that are members of our JCC, that are Polish Jews who never left, who stayed in Poland, survived the Holocaust, outlasted communism, and now are able to live their lives, their families, also finding out that they're Jewish as free, proud Jews in Poland. So they have dedicated space in the building. In Krakow, it's a very different system than we might be used to. In the United States, there's no federation. In Krakow, in Poland, there's no Jewish Family Children Services. We are providing just about every role in our community to this Jewish community that's sort of being reborn since communism ended. So in terms of survivors, they have a Holocaust survivor club inside the JCC that's open 6 days a week till 8:30 p.m. In terms of our children, we just opened a preschool 2 years ago, which is the first Jewish preschool to open since the Holocaust. BBYO and Hillel are run through the JCC. Hebrew classes, Arabic classes, Yiddish classes, Shabbat dinner, Pesach for 200 people. Just about everything going on in the community is going on through our building. And I think what's also kind of interesting about what we're doing in Krakow is that so many people, Jews as well, of course, come to Poland, come to Krakow to see sites related to the Holocaust. We are an hour's drive away from Auschwitz. So historically, many people, Jews, visited Poland or visited Krakow to see Auschwitz, and now they're coming to see Auschwitz. They're coming to see this almost complete destruction of Polish Jewry, of European Jewry, but now right down the road, seeing this rebirth of Jewish life, which is Jews and non-Jews working together. So in our JCC, which is a tiny little fraction of JCC Manhattan, for example, we have 70 non-Jewish volunteers. When you walk into our building, it's a Polish non-Jew who greets you and sends you on your way inside the building. When you come for Shabbat dinner, it's a Polish non-Jew who's helping. Really interesting and heartwarming that this place, Poland, which is in so many ways for the Jewish people defined as a place of anti-Semitism and tragedy, has now become a place of Jewish life. So we have when the world used to have visitors and travel and these things that until recently were our daily lives, we were hosting over 10,000 visitors a month came through our building. So we feel that besides, just not only is part of our mission rebuilding Jewish life in our community, but also showing the Jewish world that there is life and being that interface between a Jewish world that is visiting Poland and this Jewish community that's being reborn, and how important it is for Jews to understand around the world that Jewish life once again is thriving in Poland.
Thank you. We have some questions coming in for you, but I'll get back to those afterwards. So we have some time for Monica, who I believe is going to show a video, but I would love to ask you to say a few words about CDI and the Mexican Jewish community, a few words about what is happening now, and give some examples about how CDI is the place for all Jews of Mexico, for the various streams and communities, and also specifically during the time of Corona, how you took responsibility for the health of the members and the JCC became the center for medical support. So if you want to start with that and then go to the video, or tell us to cue
Okay, I will start and then the video.
Terrific.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to share with you that I have been married to Benjamin Snyderman for 27 years. I have two wonderful daughters, Daniela and Renat, and my husband and I have been lay leaders at the CDI in Mexico for almost 20 years. I want to share with you what is the CDI in Mexico, or as well we usually call it, everybody's home. But I would like to begin with a little introduction of the Jewish community in Mexico. According to the estimates numbers, Mexico is home to between 14,000 and 15,000 Jews, and is considered one of the most active Jewish community in the world. Jewish life in Mexico is largely divided based on Jewish ethnicity, forming a total of 6 communities. On October 1950, the CDI was founded, and today it has approximately 18,000 associates who carry out diverse sports, social, recreational, cultural, and artistic activities within a framework of Jewish identity. The CDI is the only intercommunity institution in Mexico and is an active member of the central community of the Jewish Mexican community. The members of the CDI belong to all the rest of the communities, and the only requirement that you need to be a member is to be Jewish, regardless to which community you belong. All of our members are Jewish. Our institution throughout this time has worked thanks to the participation of a group of around 300 volunteers and professionals who dedicate their time with enthusiasm and creativity in order to offer members of the Jewish community of Mexico a space dedicated to promoting the highest disciplines with a philosophy of Jewish continuity and community integration. On March 2020, the world has faced a new reality, and we at the CDI had to reinvent ourselves to continue to provide services and take care not only to our members, but to all members of the Jewish community in Mexico, bringing the CDI to the homes of everybody through the new online technology. I want to share with you an example of some of the activities that we have launched during this period. For example, the Kids Club and Library has offered exercises, arts and craft, and storytelling by Zoom. The Art Gallery also offers conferences and workshops with the artists that have had their work presented in it throughout the years. The library is making virtual book presentation and reading challenges for the associates and all the members of the Jewish community. We also participate in the inter-community video of the commemoration of Yom HaShoah and celebration of Yom HaTzmaut via Zoom. We have constant calling and contact with the Beyachad members, who are our senior citizen population, trying to be very close to them and teach them how to use the modern technologies in order for them to be able to be connected with all the activities. Chess students are participating in tournaments organized by the Chess Association Online. An online course was imparted to the professional team on the topic, managing staff and motivations in time of crisis. Most important, our staff has continued the everyday classes online in all subjects and topics, arts, sports, dance, and all the activities that we have. We have involved parents of our dance academy to record a dance video that was launched in Pesach. We participated in an international project called Amehad with dance groups of all over the world in the making of a joint choreography. Our annual theater festival Avima is now taking place via Zoom with multiple plays every day for a week. We started CDI in your home, and all videos are published in our YouTube channels. Weekly digital newspaper instead of the printed one, 3,800 readers, more than 10,000 followers. We help always with the retransmission of all official press releases of the Central Committee of the Jewish Community in Mexico. We have edited over 60 videos in a 50 days lapse for courses and other needs with orientation on COVID-19 for the community. We have more than 60 classes a day and many conferences weekly. We have more challenges to overcome, and one of them is exploring the options for outdoor art exposition when things settle down, as people will be eager to be outside rather than the enclosed spaces. We hope that soon you will be able to visit us and share with you our home. We cannot forget that tonight we are celebrating Shavuot, a simche that has 5 names. Chag Shavuot, the celebration of the weeks. I hope that during this week, each of you were able to share the company of your loved ones. Chag HaKatzir, the harvest festival. May all of you will end this season with new and good expectation. Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits. We hope soon we will be able to explore new things. Atzeret, the conclusion. Alevai, this will be over very soon. And Zman Matan Torateinu, the time of the giving of our Torah. Should all of you will continue transmitting the knowledge of the Torah through Tikkun Olam. Now, Dava, I would like to present the video that we present for you with our love.
Thank you. Monica, that was beautiful. Thank you for letting us come visit you for just a short time. My daughter is
very much.
She's asking
You're always welcome.
She's asking when we come to visit each of you, so we'll make plans when this whole thing is over. Nissim, it's my pleasure now to turn to you and ask you to share with us some of the unique aspects of the Indian Jewish culture and community, more about the JCC and how it has come to be, the population of people it serves, and particularly the responsibility that you and your JCC have taken for the local Indian Jewish community and the broader community beyond those who are Jewish and live in Mumbai. Would love to hear more from you.
Sure, thank you. What I would like to tell you is the Indian community, the Indian Jewish community, is probably the only Jewish community in the world today which did not experience any anti-Semitism. And maybe that's the reason it's probably the only community that has had a continuous existence and presence for over 2,000 years. So that's a little bit of a background. We have 4,500 Jews in India today, and 90% of these Jews live in Mumbai. And it's a very close-knit community. Almost everybody knows each other. And to give you a little bit of a context about Mumbai, Mumbai is the financial, commercial, and entertainment capital of India. Bollywood is based in Mumbai, and the JCC has been active for 21 years now. And since the pandemic broke, lots of people are working from home almost 3 months now. Unemployment is skyrocketing. We see in the news people are stuck at home. There is rise in domestic violence and things like that. And to add to all that, while all this is happening, the JCC was temporarily closed in the middle of March. We had to cancel the Purim Carnival. The Pesach Seder was called off. Shavuot not happening. Not to mention all the regular classes that take place at the JCC, the weekly classes, the Hebrew class, the Torah class, the children's Gan Katan on Sundays. The women's group used to meet every Rosh Chodesh. So all that was not happening. And Jewish peoplehood is about coming together in good times or bad. And that's exactly what was the biggest challenge. We had to engage people. So like so many other JCCs and so many other organizations, we also went online, did a lot of sessions through Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And we did taste initial success. But I have to be honest, it was more by accident than by conscious design. Because switching to virtual was like a quick fix. And we wished to know what the community members really wanted, what were their needs. So we called up community members, took their feedback. After all the classes that we ran a survey to understand what works, what doesn't. And I'll come to some of the interesting things that we started doing in a minute. But I would like to mention this. What we realized is that there were many bright spots, even in these difficult times. There was a surge in volunteering. People, well, mostly youth, taking food and medicine to isolated Jewish families and the elderly, speaking to homebound people, asking how they were, and helping them install Zoom or Microsoft Teams on their phones, introducing them to the new technology. And we have had 70 and 80-year-olds attending our weekly classes, the online Torah and the Hebrew classes that take place now. We have even 80-year-olds attending those. Of course, the donors were prompt to make donations even in these difficult times. And all this is moving. It's so moving to see the thoughtfulness, the kavana and the intention. And especially from my point of view, it's magical, especially with the limited staff and the limited resources that we have. And what we are seeing is Jewish values in practice. The theme for today, Kol Israel Arevim Zeh BaZeh, like we say. And to further weave this into Shavuot's theme today, Midrash teaches us that we were all at Mount Sinai, a people connected by shared values and a sense of peoplehood. And again, we continue to choose to be a community in these difficult times, acting together, acting for all. So what we were able to do in these past few weeks is have a virtual Shoah commemoration, and of course with the Shoah survivor on a Zoom call. And we had never done that in the past. We celebrated the Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Israeli Independence Day, online. We have a weekly Zumba class now, thanks to a Zumba professional from the community. We have weekly yoga and meditation classes. And not only that, we have smaller communities from the north of India in Ahmedabad, and community leaders from Kolkata in the east. They are participating in these sessions. Only last week we had sessions from these community leaders talking about the contributions of Jews to these communities in Ahmedabad and in Calcutta. And we had an elderly lady celebrate her 98th birthday over Zoom. We had a bar mitzvah celebration over Zoom. So it's moving to see people taking the effort to make these connections and building a community while in containment. So that's a little bit about an update from JCC and from what's happening in Mumbai.
That's terrific, Nissim. Thank you. A question that came in on the chat that I actually would like to ping to all three of you, and I'll start with Nissim. Actually, it comes from Meredith Berkman, who's a friend of mine in the JCCs. She's actually asking the question to Jonathan specifically, noting the tension between that she perceives between Israel and Poland, and asking for an update on that. But on the Israel topic, before I'm giving Jonathan a heads up, the question's coming his way. But Nissim, I'd love you to talk about the relationship of the Jewish community in Mumbai to Israel, and how that plays into Jewish identity in your community.
First of all, Israel and India always had very good relationships, political and as of today, it's not only bilateral, but it's even strategic with this current government. With Prime Minister Modi talking about Bibi, my friend, and mentioning him and at conferences of agri-tech. So the relationship always was very strong, and today it's much more in the open. India as a country, the Hindu culture has been very accommodating of the Jews, and whenever they talk about Israel and Jews, they talk with a lot of hopefulness and pride. And I never had any issues while telling people that I'm a Jew. So that was very easy. And talking about these relationships, the general population, most of them look at Israel very positively, and the relationship is very strong. And you see it in the news more often these days. They're talking about military partnerships and intelligence sharing and agri-tech and solar panels built in a factory in Gujarat. So it's very strong, and it's getting much better as the day passes.
Thank you. Jonathan, I'm going to go to you with Meredith's question more specifically because of the tension that has been described between Poland and Israel. I'd just love you to give us an update on what you see from Krakow in that regard.
Sure. I think that it was noteworthy what the tension that had been between Israel and Poland a couple of years ago, which has since dissipated, just because relations between Israel and Poland generally are very warm. Poland is a place that you don't have very strong anti-Israel sentiment as you do in many places in Europe. Over the 12 years that we've been open, when we have Israeli speakers or any Israeli events celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut, in our courtyard, we don't need any special security. There's no idea of the moment that Israel, you're going to have protests. The idea of BDS in Poland is unheard of. So there's really very warm relations. In the last few years, tourism each for the last 3 years, I think, until pre-corona, was up 50% year on year. So there are dozens of daily direct flights from all different cities in Poland going to Israel. When you go into the malls, again, pre-corona, you'd walk into a mall in Krakow or in Warsaw, and you know, I think half the people there are speaking Hebrew, really, because Poland is also a good place to go shopping from Israel. So historically, Israelis maybe visited only for the history or for the Holocaust, and now they're coming, and Israel being such an expensive country, that Israelis are coming here and going shopping. So it's some sort of normalization in that sense. But in a larger sense, Israel, I think Poland isn't very anti-Israeli as a lot of Europe is, because Poles feel they understand Israel and they have something in common with Israel, which is, if you think of the geography of Poland, Poland is, in Europe, Poland is stuck between Germany on one side and Russia on the other side. So there's an idea of being surrounded by your enemies. And I think Poles like the idea that Israel is this country, generally since its founding, surrounded by enemies that kind of stands up for itself. And Poland likes to see itself in the same light. Also, if you think about who founded Israel, the country was half founded by Polish Jews. More than 50% of the first Knesset were native speakers of Polish. So this idea that these Polish Jews that had been living in Poland for 1,000 years with this tradition of being scholarly and merchants and certainly not very aggressive or warlike people ever, suddenly move their zip code to the Middle East and become these bloodthirsty maniacs is something that doesn't sit well in sort of the Polish mindset. So there's a very general positive predisposition to Israel and Israelis among Poles. So what the question is referring to, though, is a few years ago, Poland passed a very stupid law, really, essentially written in poor language, saying that Poland wasn't responsible for the Holocaust, and nobody understood what that meant. Poland as a nation wasn't responsible for the Holocaust, and that got into a question of, were Poles responsible? And Poland, I think, sees the difference as a distinction between Poland as a nation and Poles, whereas we Jews don't always draw that distinction. So Poland essentially passed a bill to try to make it distance itself from the Holocaust and make it seem less responsible for the Holocaust, which of course, as a nation, it isn't responsible. Germany is responsible. We can say that Poles and other Europeans should have done more individually, but as a nation, Poland certainly didn't carry out the Holocaust. So Poland, being very mindful of Holocaust tourism, when you want to learn about the Holocaust, you don't visit the country that perpetrated the Holocaust, Germany, you do visit the country that was occupied where it took place. So Poland passed this law, which of course had the exact opposite effect, and people found Poland more anti-Semitic and engaging in some type of Holocaust denial. So Poland, after a year, got the message and took the law off the books, and things have gone back to normal since then.
Thank you for that. Monica, I would love you to comment also on the relationship between the Mexican Jewish community or the broader politics and community in Mexico vis-a-vis your relationship with Israel.
Okay. The Mexican Jewish community is very, very Zionist. And we have many institutions that we work very, very close with Israel. Most of our youth, when they finish high school, they take a year abroad to visit Israel for a couple of months or even a year. So we have a very, very, very strong relationship with the Israel embassy, and we work with them all the time. The political issue between Mexico and Israel, I may say, is good. It's not a love story, but it's good. Nowadays, there's a lot of Israeli companies that are making a lot of business with the Mexican government or the Mexican places. So we say that is good. The good thing is that we can live openly as Jewish. We don't have any restrictions. We have to take care of ourselves a lot, but it's the situation of our country. It's not because we are Jews. It's because we are living in difficult times, and we have to be very careful.
I would love you, Monica, to comment more about that, because what I've heard is that the Mexican Jewish community lives in a pretty sort of shtetled way, like the JCC.
Yes.
But I appreciate you explaining that this is not because of Jewish life, but because of the circumstance in Mexico. I'm curious how the Jewish community has looked out for itself and how that plays out.
Exactly. We have to take care of us sometimes in ourselves. So we live all together, even though we have Mexico is a very, very big city, one of the the biggest cities in the world. We live in 2 or 3 areas of the city. Most of the Jewish community in Mexico, even though there are small communities all around the Mexican Republic, the main concentration of Jews are here in the Mexico metropolitan area. But our way of living together is because we have to take care of each other.
And essentially, and I'll go on to Nissim in a second for more on the Indian Jewish community and the community there broadly. But Monica, I'm also aware that a phenomenon that is certainly not true in America, and Jonathan and Nissim could comment about in their countries, but there is almost no what we call intermarriage in Mexico.
No.
And I'd love you to sort of give some color to that.
Yes.
The why or the relationship of the Jewish community in Mexico with the rest of the community, because I imagine part of the reason there's no intermarriage is because there's not a lot of intermingling. Is that true?
No, because, for example, we have an average of 14 Jewish day schools that are covered from kindergarten till high school. And almost 95% of the Jewish kids attend Jewish day school through all their lives. So we live like in a kind of a Jewish bubble, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a very, very, very good relationship with the rest of the population. The Mexican people are very, very good people. And we have very similar way of thinking, of trying to see the world. We all want to be with family, all together, celebrating, as all the Jewish, as all the Mexican population. And we have a lot of institutions, and that's all. Most of our institutions are Orthodox orientated, even though we are not all Orthodox, but most of the communities are Orthodox orientation. And we have very, very strong values of the family continuation. And I think that our relationship with Israel makes stronger the belonging to the community. We have, I'm not sure, but the last I recall, we have less than 30% of intermarriage. So
someone asked a quick, easy question, but what does CDI stand for?
CDI is Centro Deportivo Israelita.
It sounds so much better when you say it. I'm glad you did not.
It's the center, the Israelite Sports Center. It's like JCC.
Like the JCC.
Yes.
Nissim, I would love to hear about the feel and flavor of the Jewish community where you are, like the demographics. How many? How large is the Jewish community in India? Is it young? Is it old? Does it really span the gamut? And in some smaller Jewish communities, I know there is a phenomenon where the younger folks go off to college in other places and sometimes don't come back to their home country, and the population diminishes. And I'm curious if that is the circumstance in Mumbai.
I'll start with that short answer. The population is diminishing. What I would like to tell you is India has a population of 1.3 billion. And I mean, some of the numbers that I'll be telling you now it's a little mind-boggling. Mumbai has a large polyglot population, about 20 million. It's like putting the population of Australia into one small city, but it's a very vibrant city. And of these, there are only 4,500 Jews in the whole of India, and most of them are in and around Mumbai. So it's like a tiny drop. It's a microscopic community in a huge country. And the relationships have been great. In my school, I think me and my sister, we were the only Jews in the whole school. But a lot of our friends knew about us and what Jews are. Some people did not understand, and they tried to compare us with, Christians or Parsis. But if you told them a little bit about Israel, they could connect. And talking about Monica's point, the Indian community is also very, very traditional. I wouldn't say orthodox. And the values and upbringings, the elderly sort of, it's a taboo to marry outside. That has changed a lot over these years, and you do see intermingling and interfaith marriages. But it's, I would say it's about 20-25%, not more than that.
Thank you. Jonathan, I'm going to turn to you on this one because I feel like it's everyone's favorite question, although it's a challenging one around anti-Semitism. I know that Nissim started by saying there isn't anti-Semitism, there's not anti-Semitism in India, but I know it's a concern in the Polish Jewish community, or at least it's something that people think about and talk about. And I know it's not something that you sort of see, my sense is, as prevalent as people expect you to talk about, and I'd be curious for you to give us sort of the behind the curtain on that.
Right. I think what's interesting is if you ask somebody about, for example, with our guests, Indian anti-Semitism or Mexican anti-Semitism, people don't have an opinion. People would say, oh, they would wait to hear what Nissim or what Monica would tell them about it. Whereas every Jew in the world is automatically an expert on Poland and Polish anti-Semitism. So I think Poland is a place that belongs to the Jewish people, in a sense, the way that Israel belongs to the Jewish people. You might never visit Israel. You might have no desire to go there. You might not love the country at all, but you have an opinion about who the next prime minister should be. So Poland, and for very different reasons, of course, Poland, not saying that Poland is the same as Israel, but in that context, there's a place that because of the Holocaust, because of the history, everybody has an opinion about Poland. And generally those opinions most often are negative. And of course there's anti-Semitism in Poland, as there is, on the Upper West Side or anywhere. It's a question of what does that mean? Anti-Semitism is, a very broad category, and we feel very safe in Krakow. We, for all the Jewish tourists who are visiting us, and you have Hasids walking around who are visibly Jewish, and we really don't have any issues. We've been open, I said, almost 12 years right now. And until we opened our preschool 2.5 years ago, we had no security. So for 9.5 years, we had a building that was wide open in the center, right in the center of the busiest part of the city, big orange sign saying Jewish Community Center, gate open, front door open, and no issues at all. So while there is anti-Semitism in Poland, it's not something that manifests itself as a physical threat to the Jewish communities. I don't think there's a safer place, certainly in Europe, to walk around as a Jew than Krakow today.
Wow, important to hear. With the 5 minutes or so that we have left, I'd love to turn to each of you, and Nissim, I'll start with you, and just give you some space to share anything else you'd like us to know, things that you think people don't know about your community, or that makes Jewish life come to life for those of us who have not yet had the chance to travel, or if we were to have the chance to travel, what it is you'd love to show us in Mumbai or Mexico City or in Krakow.
Am I off mute? Yeah. It's like I said, it's a drop in the ocean. So if you happen to come to Mumbai, you have to visit the JCC. It's the only Jewish community center, only functional Jewish community center in India that caters to all the age groups. We have programs for all the age groups, and we are doing most of it online now. And I covered most of it. There has been no anti-Semitism. It's very safe to walk as a Jew, to tell people that you are Jewish. We've never faced any discrimination, and it's a very interesting city. One thing that not a lot of people know: Rudyard Kipling, who was also a Nobel Prize winner, the author of Jungle Book. Mumbai is his birthplace. So if you come here, you should visit the JCC and also the place where he was born.
Good piece of history. Thank you. I'm going to go to Monica, and then we'll end with Jonathan.
Okay. Just I want to share with you that the question that you asked me before. We, as a community, we always take care of each other. So we're starting as a community to making some changes in laws regarding the coronavirus very much earlier than the guidelines of the government. So we as a community were recluded prior to everyone. And also we are struggling with this situation, most economically, and the health that we are facing that. So the community is putting together a lot of help to the rest of the members, supplying foods, even all the communities starting a fundraising to be able to help in some way to achieve the struggle that some of our members are having. And not only to the community. We also, as a community, are making fundraisers to help other people, people outside of the community, in hospitals, giving medical supplies to the doctors in the social hospitals. So that's what it's a very distinguished thing of the Mexican Jewish community. We may have problems between us. If you're Ashkenaz, you're Sephardic, or you're from the north or from the south. But when we have programs, we actually apply the Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh BaZeh.
What a beautiful note to almost end on. Thank you, Monica. Jonathan, either you take your pick, Ride for the Living, which is something so unique to your community, or something else on your mind that you want us to know.
I'm always happy to talk about Ride for the Living. Really, one of our signature programs at the JCC Krakow, Ride for the Living, which is a 60-mile bicycle ride from Auschwitz to the JCC. We started 6 years ago with 15 participants. Last year, we had 250 from all over the world. We had Greg LeMond, who's a 3-time Tour de France winner, Nobel Prize winners, chief rabbis, ambassadors, Israeli cycling champions. And it's really, I think, a unique event in the world that it's a chance to ride from the darkness of Auschwitz to the rebirth and light of JCC Krakow, and by doing so help to raise money and support the community. So of course it's not happening in its normal form, but what we are doing is virtual Ride for the Living, which I think is really an amazing opportunity for everybody to get involved. It's we want starting on June 3rd, which is next Wednesday, happens to be World Bicycle Day, and ending on July 5th, which is a day that the Ride for the Living was supposed to be. So it's 1 month, and we want everybody to walk, run, or ride 60 miles, which is the distance from Auschwitz to the JCC. And we have all different teams and Strava, and you can do it together and fundraise or not fundraise. And just this idea of commemorating the Holocaust together and also celebrating the rebirth of Jewish life. So it's ridefortheliving.org. We'd love to get everybody involved. And this year, and then 2021, it's an amazing opportunity to come visit Krakow. The bicycle ride is during the Jewish Culture Festival in Krakow, which is the world's largest Jewish culture festival, surprisingly in Krakow in its 30th year. And the bicycle ride is right there in the middle of it. They have the ride, hundreds of people, and then Shabbat dinner for 750 after the ride, something pretty amazing to participate in anywhere, especially when you think about the history and what's happened in the 20th century in Krakow. So invite everybody to come and visit when we start traveling again, to come visit, but this year, join us virtually.
Gamza Yavor, this too shall pass, and we all will be together in Mumbai, in Mexico City, and in Krakow. I cannot say more genuinely and more personally that my Jewish identity is stronger and so informed by knowing each of you and by being part of a global JCC community, and to spend this past hour with you tonight and sharing your stories and your history and your cultures with 277 people from around the various parts of New York City, our country, and the world has been an absolute honor. I wish you all a Chag Sameach. I hope wherever you are, if it is day, you have a good day. If it is night, that you get a good night's sleep. And for those of you who still have a little koach in you, in 4 minutes, we'll have the great privilege of being with Idan Reichel in conversation with Alicia Wiesel. So we're going to say goodbye for now and see you back here in about 3 minutes.